Okay, that was surprisingly good. K-Dog's movie review. The Presence is directed by Steven Soderbergh and stars Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan, Kalina Liang, and Eddie Madej. A family becomes convinced they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. Okay, we got a new horror film out. Before getting into it, the marketing for this movie is incredibly deceptive. If you're expecting a modern day over the top horror movie, this is not it. It's more of a family drama slash thriller with a bit of horror element to it. Now, as the title says, I'm going to get right into spoilers with this one. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. I think it's great and I think it's worthy of your time. However, I do think it's important to have expectations when going into any movie. Do not expect constant jump scares and spooky faces. You're not going to get that. What you are going to be watching is the relatively short tale about a family that moves into a new house, a family that is being, for lack of a better word, followed by a ghost. Except in this movie, the catch is that it is all from the perspective of the ghost. It's such a simple concept that could have gone way worse than it did in this movie. I could fully imagine a shitty, schlocky B horror movie with this wonderful concept. But here they actually execute it pretty damn well. The ghost is essentially the protagonist. We see everything through the ghost perspective. It's subtle because it can't talk, and we never actually see it until the very end of the movie. But you can tell with clever filmmaking that we're witnessing an entity trying to figure out itself, figure out its purpose, figure out where it can and can't go or what it should be doing, and interacting and learning more about this family that lives in the same house with it. Because although the premise is interesting and the driving part of the story, the core is the family drama. This family of four, the husband, wife, a son, and a daughter. They recently moved into this house escaping a tragedy that befell upon the daughter. Her best friend recently overdosed and passed away. And what we see a lot in this movie is the dynamics of their relationships, which is something that I absolutely loved. I loved all of the separate dynamics that they had because they're all different. The daughter with the son with the dad, the mother with the father. All of these different interactions, which can sometimes be subtle, but also hyper realistic at the same time. They are a family with their own personal goals trying to exist with one another. First, I got to say the dad. Damn, it was nice to have a kick ass dad in this movie. Chris Sullivan nails the performance in this. He seems like he's just a guy trying to do his best and keep his family together with a daughter who has suffered some major trauma recently and feels broken, a son who feels disconnected from his sibling and frankly is a bit of an asshole, and a wife who loves her son and her career more than her own daughter. There are definitely some standout emotional moments in this movie. He has one of the best lines. He's talking to his son after his son has just basically attacked his sister verbally. I know I'm going to botch the line. This isn't it word for word, but it's something along the lines of, Tyler, I know there's a good man in you. I hope to meet him one day. Something along those lines. But it's just so well done by Chris Sullivan and really hits emotionally. We have a lot of good lines like that throughout this movie. My favorite scene is also with him and his daughter, when he sits her down and basically tells her a story about how he never really used to believe the things his mother told him until she almost passed away. Basically, it ends up in him saying that he believes his daughter, he has faith in her, and he never wants her to change who she is as a person. After that scene, I wanted to stand up and start clapping. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Good parenting there, Dad. It was so warm and touching. And you have a lot of these touching scenes juxtaposed with the fucking horror of family drama. The mother that is doing some nefarious criminal stuff on the side and just not caring at all about her daughter. And the son just being verbally abusive towards his sister who has recently suffered a tragedy. But it's all done in a pretty realistic way. I mean, they're angsty teens. Of course they're going to lash out. And again, we're seeing all of this through the lens of a ghost. As I said, the mother is pretty detached from her family and is up to some criminally mischievous things. We watch as the father/husband tries to reach out to a lawyer to get some advice about spouses who are doing criminal things. Now, this is basically set up as a red herring for the movie. We think that her criminal doings have something to do with the ghost in the house, or will have something to do with the ghost in the house, but it doesn't really go anywhere, which honestly I was fine with, and it's really left open for your interpretation. Personally, I think it has something to do with money. When she was talking to her coworker or co-criminal, it seemed like she was talking about tax numbers or something. So I think there's some sort of fraud going on. Honestly, I think is kind of believable because that seems like something the husband might still stick around for. If it was something really criminal, like she's a murderer or something, I can't see this guy deciding to stay with her. She also kind of serves as the antagonist in this movie. She clearly values her son more than her daughter. She seems very emotionally distant from her daughter. There's a lovely scene where she goes in her room, cleans up a few things, and then has the most awkward hug before she leaves for work. It's all acted great. Lucy Liu and the rest of the cast do an amazing job. So yes, she's emotionally distant, too hyper-focused on her job. Maybe a little too comfortable with her son. There's a scene with her and her son where she's clearly very drunk. She starts just rambling about how much she loves him, and she's sort of reaching out for him, touching him a lot. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but I almost thought that that was also a red herring. Like maybe we're supposed to believe there's some, incestuous behavior going on, but I don't think so. I think the movie was just trying to tell us that she's drunk because even the son is like, Mom, you're drunk. Go to bed. The daughter, the one who has recently suffered a tragedy and is the most connected to this ghost. She's the one who can sense its presence from the very beginning of the movie. She's not quite sure it's a ghost, but she knows there's something going on. And throughout the movie, the ghost makes things happen. He'll make a glass fall over, or some shelves fall down, or something shake, or make a weird noise that only she can hear. And she starts to believe that it's her best friend, Nadia. However, she ends up being wrong about that. I'll get into that in a bit. But as I said, all of the acting is so great. The brother really seems like a guy who is kind of just over his sister's shit. But he plays this great role as a kid who just feels frustrated and fed up with all of the attention that she's getting because she suffered the tragedy. But getting back to the special premise of this movie, the fact that we're seeing everything through the ghost perspective, I think the movie is pretty good looking. It's very documentary-esque. It's something that basically just walks up to people having conversations or walks away while those people are still having conversations. I think there's a fine line you could ride with this premise. This movie wants to be relatively realistic and grounded. And because of that, you don't want to go too wacky with the ghost stuff. You don't want them constantly flickering the lights and knocking stuff over and making weird noises throughout the night. And so because of that, a lot of this movie is just the ghost watching, learning about this family. And I thought it was really well done. The sound design is also great. The limited noises that this ghost can make are great. It does this weird thing with the camera where the camera shakes and it makes this almost distorted sound, almost like the ghost is underwater. It's not speaking English or anything like that, but it's a weird sound that kind of reminds me of that. I also thought the pacing and editing for this was pretty good. I thought it was going to get stale at the beginning. Once I realized that it's basically just conversation, black screen, new conversation, black screen. But because the acting, editing, and the writing is so good, it doesn't make it feel slow or tedious at all. There are also a lot of long takes throughout this. I'm sure they're cut up with fancy editing, but the long takes are really nice to see as well. Okay, so getting back to the plot, one of the things I really liked about this movie, once shit goes down with the ghost, and it does something that everyone in the family can see, they all immediately buy into it. I was 100% convinced that once the ghost started making the brother's room shake and tremble and stuff fall over, that the mother or someone would say, "Oh, it's just an earthquake," or "Oh, this is an old New England home, stuff falls over." No, they all fucking buy into it. They all get outside the house and have a long conversation about, what the fuck was that? Uh, should we go back inside? How are we going to live here anymore? And should we get help? I love when a bunch of characters have to get together to solve a problem. But for this family, they're all pretty disconnected, so they're not great at problem solving. It pretty much results in them all yelling at each other until the dad finally decides that he's going to get a medium or some kind of psychic. What we basically find is that there is an entity, our ghost protagonist, and that it is living in either the past, present, or future, which is important to the plot, and something happened to it, and it doesn't know its purpose yet. It's figuring it out. A bunch of plot scenes later, we basically figure out that the ghost was in fact the brother, and that he tragically passed away saving his sister from a crazy teenager who's a rapist killer. I thought it was wonderfully executed, especially because there's some foreshadowing earlier in the movie when the dad is talking to the son and he says that line about him being a good man and hoping to meet him one day. Well, that is the good man in the brother. So to sort of back things up a bit, this friend from high school, brother's friend, dude who likes doing drugs, he also feels like an outcast, and so he connects with the sister. They start hooking up on the side without the brother knowing. Point in the movie, we see through the ghost perspective that this dude, whose acting is also great, by the way, everyone in this is so good. Anyway, our ghost witnesses him trying to tamper her drink with drugs. Luckily, the ghost saves that day by knocking over the glass of OJ onto the floor, and so our ghost already knows there's some nefarious stuff going on here. There's some bad things happening. And what I loved about it being the brother the whole time was that earlier on in the movie, the ghost is really infatuated with the sister. He's always following her around. And there are these different vibes, at least that I got from their interactions. One was that it was a child, maybe just being infatuated with her, trying to learn about the world through watching her as a person. The other side of me thought that maybe it was an older ghost falling in love with her. But what's great about this movie is looking back on it now, knowing that it's the brother the whole time, I kind of see it as more sad. Just a brother trying to protect his sister and really see what she was going through up until his own death. So I thought that was great. But anyway, back to the plot. So the skater dude fails to drug her the first time. He succeeds in his second attempt by first drugging the brother. He drugs the brother with Ambien. Brother passes out. No, he makes a drink for the daughter, puts more of that sketchy white powder in her drink, and goes and gives it to her. And what is revealed once she takes it is that it is fentanyl and basically stuns her, puts her in this sort of coma where she can still hear and maybe feel things. He goes on this mini serial rapist rant about how he's in control now and he's the one who can give it or take it away from her at any moment. So as the creepy dude is doing his creepy thing, the ghost quickly rushes downstairs and starts screaming in the ear of the brother. It starts doing that shaky cam underwater noise, but that's not being effective. So he goes even deeper and starts making that high-pitched ghost noise that we heard earlier. It looks like he dives deep into the brother's head. The brother snaps out of his Ambien sleep and says, "Oh, I gotta help you." But he starts saying her name almost like the ghost told him what was going on. He rushes up the stairs and gets in an altercation with the creepy dude, and ultimately they burst through the glass window of the second floor and fall to their death, both the creepy dude and the brother. And when that happens, the ghosts look down at both of their bodies, the same exact angle that we saw at the beginning of the movie, telling us that this ghost is in fact the son. And I really like this. I thought it was something, I wasn't really used to seeing in horror movies, that this ghost is living sort of out of time. The psychic medium earlier says it could be in the past, present, or future. We don't know who it is or really what it's dealing with right now. When it said that, I kind of guessed that it's going to be one of the family members. I didn't know which one, but it was pretty cool that it was set up that way, that it was the brother's ghost the entire time. Maybe he'll keep doing that for eternity. So basically, after that scene, we cut to the family moving out of the house. It's only the wife who's left. She's obviously devastated because her favorite son is now dead. But before she leaves, she takes one last look at the vintage mirror in the living room and sees her son. She makes this harrowing scream, which pretty much haunted me on my whole drive home. You could just feel her pain as she's screaming that she sees her dead son, her boy, and she breaks down and falls to the ground with her husband and her daughter consoling her. So overall, again, I thought this movie was wonderful. I totally was not expecting a family drama with this one. I was expecting a schlocky mess, to be honest. And it's one of those movies where after you watch it, you can go back again and watch it from a different lens. Now we know it's the son who's the ghost, so we can follow along with that perspective and more so understand why the ghost interacts or reacts to certain scenes. I mean, specifically to name a couple, when the brother is acting like a complete asshole to his sister, the ghost goes upstairs and trashes his room. Now, originally, I thought that's because the ghost was falling in love with the daughter and wanted to defend her. No, he's punishing himself in that scene. He's saying, no, dude, why are you saying this to your sister? Fuck you. And he goes and ruins his own past room. Another one is where the creepy dude, before he gets all rapey, is having sex with the daughter. The ghost feels ashamed and looks away. Again, I thought it's because the ghost was jealous. No, it's because he's watching his sister. Now, what's great about the writing of this movie is we aren't really sure if the ghost knows who it is, but it still has those feelings. So again, I would totally recommend watching this movie. Hopefully you've already seen it after watching this spoiler review. Please let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Did you like the premise? What did you think the mother's criminal activities were? Till next time.